Hi, welcome back to the class. So in the last class, we looked at the VI characteristics of a PN junction diode. And what we know is that a junction diode offers a very less resistance when it's in a forward biased and offers a very large resistance when it's in a reversed biased mode. So that is, a diode can conduct current only in a one direction. So we will use this unidirectional property in converting the AC signals to an DC signals. Now the question is, why we do require a DC when we have a AC signals, or else why to convert ACs into a DC signals? Now we know that AC signals, okay, oscillates back and forth, that is, it changes its polarity. But the main advantage of the AC signal, we can say advantage of the AC signal, is that it can be transmitted over a long distance. That's the advantage. Transmitted over a long distance. So without any power loss, that's the main advantage. Without any power loss. Now in India, at our home, the electrical power supply that is available at your main switchboard is of 220 volts. This is your main board at your home, okay, is of 220 volts and at 50 hertz. That's your main board, I can say, in India. Now there are some applications of AC as well. We can use these AC signals, in heating purpose, or else if you want to run some electric motors, etc. But there are some other applications, like we are dealing with the electronics in this course. Now if you want to run the electronic circuits, we require a DC supply. So if you want to run electronic circuits or any device, you can say, okay, what is the requirement? The requirement is of DC supply, that is your constant supply, DC. We need a DC supply. Now let's take an example. If you want to charge your laptop, okay, so what you normally do is that you just suppose this is your laptop. And if you want to charge it, you just directly go and connect it to this main power supply at your home, which is of 220 volts. So this is your charger, okay, you're connecting a charger to this laptop. Now I said this laptop is an electronics device, all right? Yes. And the available voltage in your home at the main board is of AC supply, right? So this is your AC. Now how come this AC can charge this laptop? Because laptop, I said, for any electronic circuits we need a DC supply, all right? But if you have carefully noticed the charger has got black box. Yes, we call it as an adapter. So this black box is your adapter. Now what is the role of this adapter? The role of this adapter is to convert these AC signals into a DC signals, so that those DC signals which are coming out of this adapter, suppose this is your AC, at this over here, at the output of the adapter, I'll get a DC signals. So these DC signals are given as an input to this laptop, that is your electronic circuit or else electronics device, you can say, so that it is getting charged. So the process of converting these AC signals to a DC signals, we call it as a rectification. And the process and the device that are used in this rectification process, or else in converting these ACs to DC, we call it as a rectifiers. Yes. So our job is to use the unidirectional property of a diode and try to construct a rectifier circuit so that whatever the output coming from this rectifier circuit can be used to run any electronics devices. Yes, so the electronics devices are made in such a manner that they are operated only at a DC supply and not at the AC supply. Now let's try to construct the rectifier circuit with a single diode first. So we have AC signals, yes, that are coming from the main power line, and let's give these AC signals. We have a AC supply that is coming from the main power line. Let's give this AC supply to a transformer. So this is my transformer. Right? So we are working with the one single diode. So let me connect a diode in series with this transformer, and let us connect a load. This is my load resistance of RL, or load RL. So let me write it as load RL. Okay, so this is a setup. So we have a transformer. So let me put up a naming over here. So we have A and B. These are the secondary winding, you can say. This is my secondary winding over here. And let RF, small rf, be the internal resistance of this diode. Okay, so the available voltage at the secondary winding, I can write it as V is equal to Vm sin theta, because even at the secondary winding we are going to have an AC signals, right? So we have a diode load RL, and we are going to measure the output. The output waveform will be traced across this load RL. So I can say I'm going to measure the V out across this V output across this load RL. Now the main advantage of the transformer, we can have a step up or a step down transformer as per the demand or as per the need. The second advantage of this using this transformer is that it is going to isolate this rectifier circuit, okay, from the main power line. Alright, so that's the advantage of that. Now the second thing is that if you see the voltage, okay, that is the input voltage, the one which is coming, which is given to this entire rectifier circuit. So let me trace it first. So we will have a input supply of AC signals at the secondary winding. So I can draw it like this. This is my AC signal. Yes. So I have my AC signals that are available at the secondary winding of a transformer. Now if you note the AC signals carefully, which is at the secondary winding, after every half cycle, this changes the polarity. So from 0 to pi, if you see, it's in a positive half cycle, you can say, and after pi to 2 pi in this area, it is changing the polarity, so that is having a negative polarity. So that's the first point to make a note of that. Now during the positive half cycle, so let's try to plot a waveform for the output, okay, to the input what we have given. So for the first positive half cycle, you find that the polarity at the terminal A of a secondary winding is at positive polarity, and the B will be a negative. Yes, so the terminal A is having a positive polarity with respect to the terminal B. So we know this is my P side of a PN junction diode, and this is my N. And when we connect a P to a positive terminal and an N to a negative terminal, we find the diode is in a forward biased. And when a diode is in a forward bias, you will see that there is a current flowing in this. So there will be a small I current flowing in this I. So when the current flows, Yes, so there will be a current flowing in this load RL as well. So there will be some voltage drop, and we are measuring the voltage across this load resistance RL. So what I will find if I consider a diode, to be an ideal diode, okay, ideal diode, in that case I can just neglect a 0.7 volt, which is a barrier potential, or else the internal resistance of that, you can say. So here, if I just plot it, the V output, it will be exactly the same as what you are supplying at the input. So that's for the positive half cycle. So if I just trace it, it will be exactly the same as the input supply what you have given for the first positive half cycle. Now after some time, okay, as it reaches at the pi, the polarity changes. So when the polarity will change, here you will find that the A will be negative and the B will be positive, or else the B, which was at the previous one during the positive half cycle, it was carrying a negative. So now it will be a positive polarity with respect to the A having a negative. Now in this case you will find that there will be no current flowing in this, because when you connect the P side to the negative and the N to the B, the barrier height gets increased of the resistance of the PN junction. So you will find there is no current flowing in this, there is no current, so I will be equal to 0. Yes, but there will be a small leakage, but we are not showing it. Now here if you just trace the output when the I is equal to 0, okay, we are considering the ideal case, okay, we are not going for the leakage current here, because there will be a very small leakage current. Alright, okay, so but we are considering this the ideal case. So for the ideal case, we can just say that I is equal to 0. We are neglecting that small value. And if I just plot the output, okay, so if there is no current over here, this will act like a open switch, right? It will act like an open switch like this, because it's in a forward reverse biased. And in that case, if you try to plot the output, what you will find is that exact flat line. So this region pi to 2 pi, you will find there is no change in the output, or else you get a flat line over here. Yes, now after some time again the polarity changes. After some time the polarity will change again. So again the A will become positive and the B will become negative, and what you will find again the same thing is happening. So that is, you will get again a positive half cycle at the output, and the cycle will repeat for entire length of this whatever the input you are giving. So if you see it carefully, the positive half cycle has been given at the output, whereas you don't find the negative half cycle been rectified. Okay, same thing is happening for this cycle as well. So what I can say is that the signals what you are supplying at the input is the entire wave, is this 0 to 2 pi, but at the output you find only the half wave is been rectified. So that's why the name is called as a half wave rectifier. It just rectifies the half wave of the input supply. Now the main disadvantage, if you see this, I said anything that is converting ACs to DC we call as a rectifier circuits. Now here this is not a pure DC. Pure DC is something a flat line, right? So we are interested in a flat line like this. This is called as a pure DC. This is not a pure DC, but this is called as a pulsating DC. We call it as a pulsating DC. Pulsating DC. Pulsating DC in the sense it's a mixture of both AC as well as a DC component. So this is not a big problem. We can make this a pure DC with the help of more filters and some regulated circuits. We can attach it at the output side and then we can get this flat line. That's not the issue. But there's a main disadvantage is that it just rectifies the half the signal of the input. So the power, if you look at this power, yes, the AC power that is been supplied at the input, okay, and if you just calculate the DC power supply, is just exactly the half of the input power supply. So that is a big disadvantage. So the output, you are going to get a very less power. Okay, so that is a disadvantage. Now if I want to comment on their input frequencies and output frequency, what I can say is that the output frequency is equal to the input frequency. In simple words, when the input AC signal completes its one cycle, that is from 0 to pi, at the same time you will find that the output DC signal also completes a 1/2 cycle. So I can write it as F out, that is the frequency of the output, is equal to the frequency of the input. The next thing is about the PIV rating of the diode. If I want to construct this circuit in a lab, okay, what type of diode do I require? What are the parameters of the diode that should be considered by constructing this rectifier? PIV is a peak inverse voltage, that is the maximum voltage this diode can bear during the negative half cycle, okay, of a AC signal. That is the time when the diode will be in a reversed biased mode. Now the PIV of this, if you consider it's in a negative cycle, that's a negative, A is having a negative and B is having a positive. So this is in a reversed biased. And if you calculate the maximum voltage available across this diode is your Vm, that is V is equal to Vm sin theta, where Vm is your maximum peak voltage. So I can say the PIV should be equal to the Vm. So this is the PIV of a diode. So the next thing what we do is the efficiency of this half-wave rectifier. Now let's try to calculate the rectification efficiency of a half-wave rectifier. So we have neta, that is your rectification efficiency symbol, which is equal to the ratio of a DC output power to the AC input power. In simple words, the rectification efficiency tells us the total input AC power that has been converted into the useful DC output power. Okay, so I can rewrite this as power of a DC divided by power of the AC. Now power of the DC, I can write it in terms of I square into R, that's the formula. So power available at the output supply is in terms of DC. So I can write it as I square DC into the load resistance RL, that is the resistance at the output side, divided by power at the AC. It's available at the secondary winding, so it's in terms of RMS value, so I square RMS plus the resistance, what it will be the RF plus RL. So the input signal has to pass through these two resistance, that is RF is the internal resistance of this diode and RL is the load resistance. So the efficiency formula is something like this: I square DCRL upon I square RMS RF plus this capital RL. Now if I want to solve this efficiency in terms of percentage, I need to solve this IDC first, that is the power DC and power AC has to be obtained, and then we can go for the next step, that is in terms of percentage. So let's try to calculate this IDC first and the IRMS value, okay, and then let's resubstitute these values and try to work out this. Now let's try to calculate the IDC or the I average value of a pulsating DC output waveform. So what I have is, this is my current, so I'll go with the current, okay. So here this is my waveform from 0 to pi. You find a half wave being rectified, whereas the other half of the input signals are not rectified by this half wave rectifier circuit. So 0 to 2 pi you won't find any current in this across the load RL, so this is your theta. Now what exactly this IDC or else the I average is just a value of a direct current, you can say, which sends the same charges in the circuit in the same time as is sent by the alternating current in that circuit for its half the time period. Okay, so if I want to write it, if I want to calculate this IDC, what I can write it as IDC or else I average is nothing but the area under the one cycle divided by its base. Now here my area under the one cycle comes from 0 to 2 pi. Okay, so that's the supply we are giving, 0 to 2 pi into I d theta divided by its base, that is again 0 to 2 pi. All right, but we are looking for the half wave rectifier. So there are some conditions. What we know is that the half wave rectifier rectifies only for the positive half cycle. So what I can say, the current I will be equal to Im sin theta for the area that is from 0 to pi. So the time period, you can say from 0 to 2 pi, it will give us a current Im sin theta, or else the maximum voltage is you are getting at from 0 to pi. Yes, so I will be equal to 0 for the rest of the negative half cycle, that is t is from pi to the 2 pi. You will find there is no current flowing across the load RL. Yes, so what I can rewrite this expression, I can use this condition limits and I can write IDC is equal to, I can take out this 2 pi out, so what I'll get is 2 pi out and integration. Okay, here this I can write it as 1 upon 2 pi. So integration 0 to pi, I know from limit from pi to 2 pi the current value is 0. So I'll just go with the 0 to pi because I know from pi to 2 pi there is no current. So what I can write is it's Im sin theta d theta, and again here Im is I can take it out, I can take this Im out, so it's a constant, so it's a sin theta d theta. So I have to integrate it now. So what I'll get is IDC is equal to Im upon 2 pi. Integration of sin theta will give me a minus cos theta, and the limits are from 0 to pi. So what I'll get is minus, so it's Im by 2 pi, so minus I take it out, so cos of theta is my pi, upper limit minus lower limit, cos of 0, and then this. So if you substitute Im upon 2 pi, so minus, so cos pi I know it's a minus 1, okay, cos of 0 is again 1, so it will be minus into minus, again it will give me a minus 2, so what I'll get is Im upon 2 pi, and this is my minus into minus will give me a minus 2, alright, minus into minus, again that will be a positive, so what I'll get is Im into positive 2 divided by 2 pi, so here again 2 and 2 will get cancelled. So what final value I am getting, IDC is equal to Im upon pi. Yes, so IDC is my Im by pi for this pulsating DC output waveform. So let me write it somewhere here. So what I have got is IDC or as I average is equal to Im by pi. So that's my equation. So now the next thing we're going to calculate is the IRMS, or else the root mean square value of a current. Now what exactly it is? It's the value of a direct current that produces the same heating effect in any given resistor, you can say, has produced by the alternating current signal for the same time period. Okay, so the IRMS I can calculate I can say IRMS is equal to the square root of the area of one cycle, the whole square divided by its base. Now what we know is that the area of the one cycle is from 0 to 2 pi. So I can say it's 0 to 2 pi, and it's I square d theta this time because it's a whole square divided by its base, that is 2 pi. Now again, what I know is the limit. Limit is that, so the current I is equal to Im sin theta. So for which region? We are getting it for 0 to pi. So for 0 to pi, I'll get the maximum current or else the voltage we can say, and for the next negative half cycle, that is from pi to t 2 pi, it will be a 0. Now here we are looking at the IRMS at the input AC signal. So but what we know is that we are working with the half wave rectifier. So only the positive half cycle has been rectified by the half wave. So thereby we are getting this only the half wave at the output. Yes, from 0 to pi or else after 2 pi. So our integration limits, what I'll be using is this I is equal to Im sin theta in this region only, because there is no, because the rectifier is rectifying just the half the signal of the input AC, okay, and not the entire signal of that. So my limit will be from 0 to pi. So what I can write it as IRMS is equal to my square root. So 0 to pi, it will become 0 to pi into I square, that is it will become Im square sin square theta d theta divided by 2 pi. That's the base. So I can take this out. I can just write this as square root of Im square divided by 2 pi integration of 0 to pi and sin square of theta into d theta. Now what is the sin square of theta? I can write it as 1 minus cos 2 theta. So here I have IRMS is equal to, okay, so I can write it as a square root, that is Im square upon 2 pi, Im square upon 2 pi. Again integration, I can rewrite it as integration of 0 to pi. So 1 minus cos 2 theta divided by 2 into d theta. I can take this 2 out. So 2 2s are 4. So the next step, what I'll get it as Im square divided by 2 2s are 4. So it's a 4 5 and 0 to pi 1 integration of 1 d theta minus integration of 0 to pi I can have of cos 2 theta d theta. Alright, so this is in a bracket that's under the square root. So here again I can rewrite this as Im square divided by 4 pi integration of 1 d theta is my theta, that is going from 0 to pi, minus integration of cos theta is my sin 2 theta divided by 2. Again I can write it as from 0 to pi. Now the next thing is to substitute this upper and the lower limit. So what I'll get it, Im square divided by 4 pi, I can substitute this as a pi minus 0, alright, minus sine of 2 theta, I can just take it, I can just take this 2 out, okay, so that will become no, so yes, this is sine 2 theta, so I can just write this sine 2 theta as sine of 2 pi minus sine of 0, okay, yeah, so divided by whatever it is 2, divided by 2 divided by 2. Now what I know is this, I can just take out this 2. So here what I'll get is sine of 2 pi is 0 and again of sine of 0 is 0. So this entire terms becomes 0. So what I'll get is Im square upon 4 pi and this is my pi as my answer. So simply I can just cancel this pi term out, okay. So what I'll get is pi gets cancelled out, so I am left with Im square by 4 pi, and that's the square root of this. This is the square root of that. So when the same thing, I can rewrite it as I RMS is equal to Im upon 2. So what I got is, this time the IRMS is equal to Im upon 2. So let me rewrite this over here. So what I'm getting, IRMS is equal to Im upon 2. So that's my one more equation which I have got for the IRMS value. Now the next thing, we have got IDC and IRMS value in terms of maximum current. Okay, here it's Im stands for maximum current divided by pi, whereas IRMS is Im by 2. Yes, so now let's substitute this equation back into the efficiency formula and try to calculate the efficiency of a half-wave rectifier. So now I have calculated the IDC and the IRMS value. So the next thing, I'll substitute this IDC and IRMS in this equation. So what I'll get is IDC, what I know is it's Im by pi. So here I'll get it as Im by pi the whole square into RL divided by IRMS square, which is equal to Im by 2. So it will be Im by 2 the whole square into RF plus RL. So now here Im and Im will get cancelled. Im and Im will get cancelled. So what I'm left with is RL by pi the whole square, that's a 3.14, and 3.14 will give me, the whole square will give me 9.85, that's the value. And in the denominator I can get it as RF plus RL divided by 2 2s are 4. So now when I take this 4 okay up, so what I'll get is neta is equal to 4 by 9.85 into, you will have this RL divided by RF plus RL. Alright, now here 4 by 9.85, when you divide it, it will give me, it's almost close to 10. Yes, you can consider approximately 10, so it should be close to be a 40%. So here I'll get it as 0.406 if we just divide it, and then I have into RL divided by RF plus RL. Now the same expression I can rewrite it as 0.406 divided by RF plus RL divided by RL. And again I can rewrite this as 0, the neta will be equal to 0.406. I can make it as 1 plus RF divided by RL. Yes, when you multiply it RL, so you will get the same form. So this is the efficiency formula. Now if you look at this equation, what I can say is that if this RF, that is the internal resistance of a diode, is made very small, that is a very negligible, you can say, if you compare with this load resistance RL, in that case, if this RF is negligible, in that case you will get a maximum efficiency. So if that is the case, if RF is much lower than this RL value, I can get neta max, which is equal to 40.6%. If you just multiply it by 100, so you will get a 40.6%. So this is the maximum efficiency of a half-wave rectifier. Or else what you can say is that the 40.6% of the AC input power is converted to a DC output power. So it means that, okay, that's a 40.6%. Now, if you see the output waveform of a half-wave rectifier, what we are saying, it's a pulsating DC. Yes, and what is a pulsating DC is just an, you can think of an superimposition of an AC component plus a DC component, or else this are also known as a ripples. We also call this as a ripples. Okay, AC plus DC component, you see a ripples forming here for just in a half wave of the input signal. Now, what is this ripple factor? You know, if you want to know how good your rectifier is, or else if you want to know the effectiveness of your rectifier, you know, one should know in what quantity or else what is the magnitude of the AC component that is present in this DC output. Okay, so the AC component matters. Now, if this AC component is in a very less number, or else the magnitude is very less, then you can say that your rectifier is a very good. Okay, or else the effectiveness of the rectifier is a good. Now, the thing is that because we are interested in getting a flat DC output, that is a pure DC output, and this can be reduced, you know, this can be we can get this, so this can be, so we can get this DC output only if we reduce this AC component. Okay, so what I can say is that the ripple factor mu is the symbol for that, is the ratio of RMS value of AC component to the value of DC component, or else I can write it as IAC divided by IDC. If you make this IAC, okay, very less if you compare with the IDC component, then in that case your ripple factor will be very small. So that is needed. We want to reduce this ripple factor. Now here what you are getting is like these ripples you are getting. Yes, so our job is to reduce the ripple factor and try to get it as small as possible. Yes, so we'll try to derive it in the form of a mathematical expression. Now, to understand this ripple factor, okay, let me take a simple pulsating DC signal at the load output. Okay, so let this be I, and what I get is this is my pulsating DC signal. So for the time being, you just forget this, what pulsating DC, what I have shown here is just of the half wave rectifier. So let's go in general first, and then we will substitute this IDC and IRMS value for the half wave in this general form. So here is my input signal. So I said this is my pulsating because you see that there's no change in the polarity. The current is in a one direction. Yes, so here I can show it something like this. So it's a pulsating DC, so I can say it's the addition or else the superposition of IDC plus this is my IAC. Yeah. So if I want to calculate the effective RMS, you know, I'm interested in RMS of this signal, I can say that it's equal to square root of I square DC plus I square AC. Now I'm interested in the IAC, so what I do is I'll just take this I square IAC on the left hand side and I just write it as I square RMS minus, it will go on the left hand side, so it will be I square DC. Now I divide the above equation by IDC, so what I'll get is IAC divided by IDC is equal to square root of, you know, I think on the right hand side also I'll write IDC square root of the same I square RMS minus I square DC, which I can rewrite it as is equal to, when I take this IDC inside, so what I'll get it as I square RMS minus I square DC divided by I square DC. Now if you see this IAC by IDC, it's again a ripple factor, that is a mu. So what I can write it as, I can rewrite the same expression as, you are getting the ripple factor mu is equal to, on the right hand side, because this IAC upon IDC is my ripple factor. Ripple factor will be equal to, here I can rewrite this as square root of I square RMS, okay, and I can get it I square on this side, I square DC minus 1. Yes. Now this is the general form, you know, if you want to calculate a ripple factor, okay, for any pulsating DC signal. So now I'll just put up the values, because these are the values what I have obtained for the 0 to pi region. Okay, so IDC what I have got is Im by pi. Now I'll substitute those values. So what I get is the ripple factor is equal to square root of, so IRMS square upon I square DC. So I can just write it in a 1 form, that's a whole square minus 1. So IRMS, I am getting it as a Im by 2. So here it is Im by 2 divided by IDC is Im by pi. So Im by pi. So here I'll get this Im and Im will get cancelled. Im and Im gets cancelled. So what you are left with, square root of, so this pi will go on in the numerator. So what I'll get is pi by 2 the whole square minus 1. Now pi square is, again pi is 3.14 and the square of that will give me 9.85. So 9.85 divided by 4 minus 1. So 4 and 9, 4 2s are 8, I can get. So this is my something, 4 2s are 8. So 2, 1 carry over here. So 4, 2, 4, 6, I think I'll get it, minus 1. 2.46 minus 1. And here I'll get it as 1.46. And the square root of this 1.46, that's the ripple factor, final value, I'll get it as 1.20. Close to that, 1.20. So that's the ripple factor for the half wave rectifier. The value is 1.20, which is very large. Yes, so our job, you know, is to reduce this ripple factor, and we can also reduce this ripple factor with the help of some filter circuits like capacitor filter circuits. That's not the issue. But again, the main disadvantage is that it just rectifies this, you know, the output what you get at the end is, you know, just the half of the input, or else you can say the power, you know, that at the output will be delivered is just the half of the input power what you are supplying. Suppose supplying power is 100 volts, you are going to get just a 50 watts at the end. So that's the big disadvantage of an half wave rectifier circuit. Now let's take a small problem and try to understand this half wave rectifier in more detail. So in the problem, it's asked the applied input AC power to a half wave rectifier is given as 100 volts and the DC output power is of 40 watts. So you are asked to calculate what is the rectification efficiency and what happens to the remaining 60 watts. So let's focus on the first, that's a rectification efficiency is asked, and if you want to calculate is the rectification efficiency is nothing but the DC output power, okay, this is at the output divided by the AC input power, correct? And we are given the applied input AC power. So let me draw the input signal. So here we have input signals. So this is my one input, one complete cycle. So this is my V input, and what we know is that for the half wave rectifier we are going to just get the half wave rectified, correct? So this is my V output. Yeah, so the PDC is given to be of 40 watts, that is the output side. I am getting this as my 40 watts, whereas at the input they have mentioned it's a 100 watt power, 100 watts power, All right. So if I just calculate this, that is PDC at the output is 40 watts divided by the 100. So what I'll get is the efficiency. Yes, efficiency is almost, if I just multiply it by 100, so the efficiency in terms of 0.40, and if I put it multiplied, so I'll get the efficiency to be of 40%. Now that's the rectification efficiency. Now they have asked what happens to the remaining 60 watts. So you are supplying the 100 watts through the input signal, AC signals. Okay, so these are your AC signals. So this is your pulsating DC. So what happens to the remaining 60 watts? 40% is the efficiency. Now if you see this carefully, if you have understood the half-wave rectifier properly, so here it's 100 watts. So you are having the positive half cycle and the negative half cycle. So this 100 watts is the 50 watts will be carried by this upper cycle. That's a positive half cycle, and the next 50 watts will be taken up by the negative half cycle. And what we know is that the design what we have constructed for the half wave is going to rectify just the positive half cycle, that is from 0 to pi region, correct? So the rectification is just a half of the input signal that we are giving. So what I can say that the rectifier circuit takes only this positive half cycle for the rectification part. So that means the power which is supplied to the rectifier circuit is not 100 watts, but it's a 50 watts. So there is no question of this where the 60 watts are being lost. Okay, so actual, that is input is coming to the rectifier is of 50 watts, that is being rectified, and finally we are getting its 40% is the efficiency of that. Okay, so that's why we are calling this as a half wave rectifier. Whereas the efficiency of converting the AC to DC, okay, AC to DC is the 40% is the efficiency of that. Okay, out of, now here in this case 50 watts is given, so 40% again. Now this is about the efficiency part. Now if you want to talk it in terms of power efficiency, okay, so here if you're talking about the power efficiency, in that case it will be the 40, what is the efficiency of the rectifier, divided by the 50 watts of the positive half cycle, that is this cycle of the input signal of the positive to the outputs waveform. So you will get 40 by 50, and if you just multiply it by 100, that's the efficiency. 0 0 gets cancelled, 5 1s are, 5 2s are, so the 80% is the power efficiency. So what I can say is that the power efficiency of this half wave rectifier with this value 100 watts and 40 watts at the output is of 80%, whereas the efficiency of converting the AC to DC is the 40%. So I hope that this small problem helped in clearing all the doubts. So thank you very much.